we know that you've been representing us well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Now we'll go to 12. 12 is just a summary of the items that have been distributed to all the members, one of which is our comprehensive submission to the Resource Management Enabling Housing Supply Bill. It's contained there. Haven't received any questions on this. So the motion is before us on the screen. I will move accordingly. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second, Mr. Chair. Councillor Cooper.
Councillor Cooper, thank you. And all those in favour say aye.
Chair. Sorry, I've got a comment. It's in the sidebar.
Okay, I've got 8 chairs from you, Councillor Henderson. Well done.
Actually. Sorry, Chair.
Go ahead, Councillor. It's all good.
Thanks. You look, just briefly, before you put the vote, I'd like to record my vote to oppose our submission under Attachment D for the Resource Management Enabling Housing Supply and Other Matters Amendment Bill. I'll just briefly set it out because I've sort of said it all before. But I do believe in the collective responsibility principle that we operate under with these submissions. So I kind of don't vote against this lightly. But I have been consistent in my stance the whole way through, and I feel that I'd kind of lack integrity if I didn't vote against this. For 2 reasons. So firstly, in the previous motion of the committee to draft our submission, the motion was merely to appoint people to draft it. So it was reasonably silent on the actual content. And I asked during questions and was told my view would be incorporated into the submission, and that was the appropriate way to handle it. From there, I did input into the process and found our final submission that came back was even further away from my view than the first draft. And the submission that was presented to Select Committee is a view of the Council, which implicitly includes me. Now, I understand that because I understand the collective responsibility principle, but I'm kind of exercising today what I think might be my only option to vote against a submission that I disagree with completely and passionately. And just very briefly why. I'm quoting from the submission here, recognising that the NPSUD already requires intensification around key public transport routes, the Council submits that the MDRS provisions should not apply to the Auckland region, given the capacity and development already enabled. And that, to me, really summarises the tone and points in our submission that I find so objectionable. So talking about what's already happening and what's enabled, West Auckland has 1 rapid transit bus route. The central city has 15. And for that, Henderson Massey has taken the most growth in this entire city. This bill will enable more housing close to people's jobs, study and public transport. It'll help solve the housing crisis. It'll improve our carbon footprint by lowering transport emissions. And if we oppose that, which we are planning to do and we've already done, we are letting down young people and young families struggling to get on the ladder. We're arguing in favour of shunting our housing intensification into the suburbs, which is what we're doing now, locking people out of wealthier communities in the centre. We're letting down people that need a home. We as a council needed to make loud and clear that we support a compact city model, and we didn't, but I do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. No, fair enough. Can I just get clarity? You're actually recording your vote against all parts of the submission.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure the best way to sort of elegantly do that through item 12, Chair, so I'll kind of seek your guidance on that. I thought maybe voting against 12B, and that secretarial note's a good one, I think. Okay.
And look, just to be clear, there was delegated authority, and the draft submission and the forward and the general direction was communicated with all the members. And you, Councillor Henderson, you definitely did respond, and you responded in detail, and I really want to acknowledge your commitment to that. And not too many others did, though. And those that were delegated had to balance the really the direction of travel of the advice and what I'd heard and others had heard, and the feedback from members to that draft. So it is a reflection of the collective. I'm pretty confident, I'm very confident of that. And the Mayor and I conveyed that in our oral in support of the written. But thank you, Councillor Henderson.
Chair, if I could just respond quickly. I do appreciate that, and I do understand that. And I'd just add really quickly, thanks for your work, and the Mayor and the staff as well. You know, although we disagree on some of the substantive points, I do acknowledge the hard work and the thought that went into it. So thank you for that. I do understand.
And thank you for brokering a conversation with a minister on a Sunday night. On this particular matter. So thank you, Councillor Henderson. We'll record that as noted on the screen. It's moved and seconded. There's no further comment. We're talking about the receipt of this information. Okay, I've got Councillor Cooper first, please. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I respect my fellow councillors' right to vote against part of this submission. I do support this because though we absolutely need the housing and we're getting the housing. However, what I am really concerned about is removal of design standards. That is what is going to make the difference between density done well and rubbish that is not livable. And there's still that ability for qualifying matters, but I think make sure there is density closer in, which I hope there is, because the further out suburbs have had far too much development away from public transport. And I honestly don't have a lot of faith of us being listened to and having our views taken into account, even though there's been some pretty good articles supporting our submission in the media. But I think that we have to make our views heard. We have to push for good design, because that is the key to density done well and for people to have livable neighbourhoods. Because the way this bill is proposed at the moment, they will not be livable neighbourhoods. And I don't think I could stand by not supporting that submission because of that reason. Thank you. And thank you to our staff, because they actually work day and night and through the weekends to get this done.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. And Councillor Walker, please.
Submission, Mr. Chair. My only concern is that it doesn't go far enough. I certainly conveyed information to the process. It concerns me hugely that I think the impact of this bill will be a lack of affordability, because it will drive up the cost of land, because the cost of land is directly proportionate to the development potential of the land. It will lead to speculation. The special housing area legislation that had precisely the opposite effect. So it doesn't lead to affordability, and there could have been more information supplied on that. Secondly, in respect of reducing emissions, I believe it will have the opposite effect. It will encourage more slab construction, more concrete construction, more flat earth development, a huge loss of trees that we're already seeing now across Auckland, and I would suggest a loss of heritage and the carbon inherent in that heritage as well. So it paves the way for a different Auckland to what we have now, and an Auckland that is unlivable, ugly, not meeting our emissions, and increasingly more and more expensive for people to live in, Mr. Chair. So yes, I support the submission, but in my
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Thanks for the feedback, councillors. And just for your interest, I think the second reading of this bill is this Thursday. I'm pretty sure it is going up to the House for the second time on Thursday. Okay, I think we've canvassed that well. And I've also got a note from Councillor Ofeso Collins as well. And we say aye.
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 Contrary,
Aye.
no. Sorry, contrary, no.
Aye.
Declare that carried. Thank you. That draws us to item 30.